Sorry about forgetting about Sunday's upload. Just so you know, this is a double chapter upload. And I will be uploading one on Sunday. As an apology. Welcome to Chapter 4 of Hogwarts Bouquet, a trans Harry Potter fanfic by ElizabethEmerald on AO3. Chapter 4 is titled, A Rose by Any Other Name. Harry, McGonagall started. This was going to be a day of difficult conversations, but if they wanted to keep the boy safe, they couldn't put it off. They also didn't want to risk causing further harm by doing things without his consent. I want to begin by saying again, you aren't a bad person. You aren't a freak. You aren't going to be my servant, and neither of us want to hurt you or let you be hurt. He watched her, weariness evident in his eyes, but he still nodded. Poppy took up the conversation next. We took care of most of your injuries yesterday. While you'll still be taking the nutrient potions for a little while, until you're back up to a healthy weight, I hope you're feeling a little bit better? He nodded again, this time more sure in response. Thank you, Miss Poppy, Harry said, his voice soft. I'm feeling much better now. He tried to give them a big smile. It pulled at Minerva's heart to see him trying to be happy for them. That's very good, Harry. Your health is very important to both of us. We're also worried about your safety, Minerva said, bringing the conversation to the first difficult aspect. Part of the reason you were first left with your relatives was because I was told you would be protected there. That was not the case, but we do still need to make sure that you are protected. Lord Voldemort's followers may still be out there, and we can't let them find you. Harry was paying close attention to what they were saying, his head moving between the two witches. Minerva was impressed by how bright he seemed. If they could help him heal from the damage the Dursleys' cruelty and Dumbledore's negligence had done, he would be a brilliant wizard. In order to keep you safe, we were thinking of giving you a disguise, Poppy said. We could change your hair and eye color so no one could recognize you. You could even use a different name. That way we could make sure you were safe. What would my new name be? Harry's voice showed his trepidation. Minerva hid a small grimace by taking a sip of her tea. She could only imagine the nicknames his relatives might have given him. We don't have to pick it for you. If there's a name you always liked or something you wish to be called, we could go with that. This is a serious consideration, Mr. Potter, so if it takes you a couple of days to decide, that's fine. Harry looked thoughtful. For a 10-year-old, he seemed to be putting a lot more thought into his name than most children his age would. You said my mother's name was Lily? Harry asked softly, seeming to be thinking something through out loud. Minerva nodded when he looked up at her. And my aunt's name is Petunia. Yes, I believe the Evans had a history of naming the girls after flowers, Minerva said with a soft smile, remembering when she had first brought Lily her Hogwarts letter. And you're named after a flower too, right? He said, turning to Poppy. Yes, that's correct. Neither witch was sure where he was going with this line of logic, but decided to let him finish getting his thoughts out. Maybe I could be named after a flower too, like Rose. I always loved roses. Minerva and Poppy glanced at each other, both visibly confused. Harry went from sitting upright with excitement to wilting under their gaze. It was Poppy who recovered first. That's a very pretty name. Rose? She put her best smile on her face. A child's face screwed, tears again pooling in his eyes. I thought I was going to be a witch like you, like my mom. So I wanted a girl's name, but maybe my uncle was right. I am a freak. No, no. Rose, you're not a freak, Minerva said. Gently as possible, she put a hand on his shoulder. Do you want to be a witch? Rose nodded. Have you ever wished you were a girl, or felt that you were in the wrong body? Again Rose nodded. Tears were slowly moving down her cheek. Poppy took over the conversation from here. She had helped other children at Hogwarts with their own transitions and knew what to say. Well, if you want to be a girl, you can. Wanting to be a girl doesn't make you a freak either. Some people, including some magical people, feel they were born in the wrong body and would feel more comfortable with something else. Would you feel more comfortable dressing as a girl, too? Another nod. Minerva took out her wand. May I? With Rose's last nod, Minerva changed her clothes with a wave of her wand. The baggy pants she had been wearing changed into a simple skirt, while the shirt became more fitted with a different cut. Rose looked down at herself, her hands flying to her mouth. The two witches smiled kindly at the stars they could see in Rose's eyes. Mrs. Potter, Rose Potter, how does that sound? Minerva asked. Oh my gosh, it sounds amazing. Rose smiled, standing and twirling around so that the skirt flared out around her legs. Actually, what do you think of Rose Pomfrey? Poppy asked, a thought clearly coming to her mind. Minerva turned to her with a raised eyebrow, and Rose gave her a similar confused look. Well, we want to keep you safe, and I think it might work as a really good cover. I could tell others that you were my grandniece. My siblings moved to other parts of the continent during the last war, so no one knew them personally. I could say that you were coming to live with me for a year in preparation of you attending Hogwarts next year. Minerva and Rose both looked at Poppy in surprise. You could live in the infirmary like I do. I could keep an eye on you, and you would be hiding in one of the safest locations in Britain. Left unsaid was that Rose would be hiding directly under the nose of Albus Dumbledore. It was a dangerous idea, but one that just might work. Would I call you Aunt Poppy? Rose asked. If you would like to. Rose nodded again. And you would be Aunt Minerva? Poppy snorted, and Minerva struggled to contain her blush. No, dear girl. Poppy and I aren't. We're not. Minerva put a hand to her head. Oh, Lady Morgana, I was not prepared for that. Yes, Rose, you can call her Aunt Minnie if you'd like, at least when it's just us. Poppy was barely containing her mirth. Minerva tried to glare, but there was no heat in it. Fine, if you must. You may call me Aunt Minerva, or Aunt Minnie, if that would make you happy. Minerva said. She smiled at Rose, so she could see Poppy smirking from the corner of her eye. Well, they had both agreed that nuptials were out of the question and truly unnecessary for both of them. Their loose definition of their relationship had never failed to be a small point of contention between the two witches. Best part of this, it gives us the perfect cover for having to spend a few days away from Hogwarts until we have everything in order, Poppy said with a smile. She pulled on her wand and whipped her own Patronus into the air. She addressed the spectral cat. Tell Dumbledore that I will be out of office because of a family emergency. Minerva struggled to hide her blush at the departure of the Patronus. People in the past had commented on the similarity between the two witches' Patroni. She hated that they had been forced to hide their relationship while both of them focused on their careers, yet they had always had a habit of finding each other again. The pair of them choosing to go behind Albus's back to care for Rose together almost didn't surprise her. Rose seemed to have recovered fully from her morning panic. She had watched Poppy's Patronus depart with a smile. Now she kept running her hands over her new skirt, her joy evident in her face. Now we need to address the matter of your appearance. Rose blushed and desperately tried to tame her wild hair with one hand. Minerva grimaced and mentally reprimanded herself. She needed to remember to be careful how she phrased things now. She didn't want the young Miss Potter to be constantly afraid of rejection. I'm sorry, my dear, I meant your disguise. At first I could give you some glamours that will hide your appearance so those who knew your parents wouldn't recognize you. Once you find a look that you are more comfortable with, I can perform some transfiguration magic to help the changes last longer, though I promise you I can undo the changes if you find you don't like them. Okay, Rose said. Can you make me look more... She hesitated, as if unsure how to phrase her request. Feminine? Minerva supplied. That certainly lies within my abilities. The changes I make will be minor and will fade in time, but later I'm sure Aunt Poppy will be happy to discuss some magical means to enact more lasting change. Rose smiled again, though if Minerva was reading her correctly, she was starting to feel overwhelmed. She pulled out her own wand and raised her eyebrows, asking Rose for her permission before she started casting. Rose smiled at her and nodded. Minerva cast a series of glamours. They wouldn't hold up under inspection, but they could help change Rose's appearance so no one would recognize her. She changed Rose's eyes from her mother's brilliant green to her own blue. Her hair she changed to match the sandy brown that Poppy had worn in her youth. Then she carefully hid Rose's scar. She sat back and smiled at her handiwork. Go look at yourself in the mirror. Tell me what you think, Minerva said. Rose ran off to the bathroom, excited to see what she looked like. Minerva glanced up to see Poppy again smirking at her. What? Did you purposely make her look like she could be our daughter? Poppy asked, her voice both impossibly smug and yet filled with love. I did nothing of the sort, Minerva said. She certainly hadn't intended it, but it was very obvious now that she'd thought about it. Before she could continue to try and deny the claim, Rose returned a wide smile on her face. She darted up to the two women, grabbing Minerva in a tight hug. Thank you, Aunt Minnie. Then Rose turned and hugged Poppy as well. Thank you, Aunt Poppy. Of course, my dear. Both women smiled, trying to hold back the tears from their eyes, even though they could see Rose crying soft tears of happiness. I think that's quite enough serious conversations for the day, Poppy declared. How about we take our tea out to the garden and enjoy the rest of our beautiful day? Rose led the way out the back door. Poppy stopped Minerva on her way to press a quick kiss to her cheek before following Rose. Minerva smiled at herself, confident again that she had made the right decision, and no matter how hard the future would be for her, she would do whatever it took to keep that happy smile on Rose's face. She wiped a tear from her own face and hurried out the door to enjoy the heavily overgrown garden. Thank you for listening to this chapter. Have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching.